Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a topic that I've been really looking forward to. It's got mystery, secret societies, and maybe even hidden identities. We're talking about, well, the theory that Francis Bacon actually wrote Shakespeare's plays.
Ah, yes, and that he may have even been a Rosicrucian, a fascinating theory that has captivated people for centuries.
And we're going to see if it holds any water.
Exactly.
So, where are we getting all this information from today?
Our main source for this deep dive is Bacon, Shakespeare, and the Rosicrucians, a book written by William F.C. Wigston and published way back in 1888.
Okay, 1888, so this isn't exactly a new theory, is it?
No, not at all. And in this book, Wigston really lays out a lot of his research and really dives deep into the potential links between Bacon, Shakespeare, and the Rosicrucians.
Now, just to be clear for our listeners, when we say Rosicrucians, we're talking about
This sort of mysterious intellectual brotherhood, shrouded in secrecy, they emerged in the early 17th century, right around Shakespeare's time.
Right, and they were all about transforming the world through knowledge and spiritual enlightenment.
Very much so. And they even had their own symbol, the Rose Cross. This symbol is really important because it represents their fusion of spiritual and scientific pursuits.
I can see how that would tie in with both Bacon and Shakespeare. Bacon, known for his scientific method and advancement of learning, and Shakespeare for his exploration of the human condition.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our main source, we've got our key players. Bacon, Shakespeare, and the Rosicrucians. But where do we even begin to untangle this web of connections?
Well, Wigston starts by introducing us to a rather interesting character, John Haydon,
Who was this John Haydon?
a 17th century Rosicrucian apologist who made a pretty bold claim about Bacon's work, New Atlantis.
New Atlantis, that was Bacon's vision of a utopian society, right?
Yes, exactly. But Haydon believed that New Atlantis wasn't just fiction, but an actual description of the Rosicrucians' hidden homeland. A secret society hiding in plain sight.
That's a pretty wild theory.
It is. And Haydon goes even further by saying that he himself actually visited this hidden land.
Oh, come on, is that even possible?
Who knows? But he even compares his journey to specific details found in Bacon's New Atlantis. It's almost as if he's saying, look, I've been there. Bacon's talking about a real place.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. But how do we know this Haydon guy was even telling the truth? Could this just be some elaborate hoax?
Well, there's no way to know for sure, but here's where it gets even more interesting. Haydon also claimed that Bacon's initials were found among a list of the Rosicrucian fraternity members.
Hold on, are we talking about like a membership list or something? How could they even prove that?
It's not entirely clear from the source, but it's definitely a significant detail. It suggests a direct link between Bacon and the Rosicrucians. It's like finding a secret handshake. It hints at something more going on beneath the surface.
So we've got a connection between Bacon and the Rosicrucians. But where does Shakespeare fit into all of this?
To answer that, we need to dive into the heart of the Rosicrucian philosophy.
And see how it might have influenced Bacon's work.
And maybe even Shakespeare's plays. Remember, the Rosicrucians were all about a universal reformation, a transformation of knowledge in society.
And Bacon himself was a huge advocate for the advancement of learning, right?
Exactly. He believed knowledge was the key to progress. And what's fascinating is that the Rosicrucian Manifesto actually connects this universal reformation to a prophecy by Paracelsus.
Wait, Paracelsus, the famous alchemist and physician.
The very same.
Yeah.
And Paracelsus predicted that a mysterious figure would appear, someone who would reveal hidden knowledge and usher in a new era.
So are we saying that Bacon could be this prophesied figure leading the charge for the Rosicrucian movement?
That's exactly what Wigston suggests. And to support this theory, he starts looking for clues within Shakespeare's works.
Wait, clues in Shakespeare?
Yeah. He specifically points to the appearance of the Rose Cross, the central emblem of the Rosicrucians, believing it's hidden throughout Shakespeare's plays.
So he thinks Bacon was leaving little hints about his Rosicrucian affiliation right in front of everyone's eyes.
That's the theory. And we'll dive into some specific examples in just a bit. But first, we need to take a step back and understand a key concept that fascinated Bacon: the idea of hidden wisdom.
Hidden wisdom, what do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. During the Renaissance, there was this fascination with ancient knowledge, but also this idea that certain truths should be protected, veiled from those who weren't ready to receive them.
Like a secret code that only initiates could understand.
Exactly. And Bacon himself wrote about this, expressing admiration for ancient philosophers who kept their knowledge hidden. He even talked about the glory of concealing a thing.
So are we saying Bacon believed in keeping knowledge exclusive, reserved for a select few?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. He saw the power of knowledge, its ability to transform society, but also its potential for misuse. He believed in a gradual unveiling of truth, a careful dissemination of knowledge to those who were prepared to use it wisely.
So he wasn't about hoarding knowledge, but more about protecting it until the right time.
Exactly. He believed in a gradual process of enlightenment, much like the Rosicrucians, who aimed for a gradual universal reformation of knowledge and society.
It's fascinating how these ideas seem to converge. Okay, I'm ready to see some of those hidden clues in Shakespeare. Where do we start?
Well, one of the first things Wigston points to is the comparison of Adonis to an Ethiopian.
Wait, Adonis, like the Greek mythological figure.
Yes, and this comparison appears both in Shakespeare's Venus and Adonis, and in a contemporary work called Love's Martyr, which some scholars believe is connected to Shakespeare.
So this parallel use of the Ethiopian comparison is significant because
It suggests a shared source, or perhaps even a common author. And remember, Wigston believes Bacon is that author,
Yeah.
subtly weaving his ideas and influences into these works.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these seemingly minor details can build a larger case, but one example doesn't exactly prove anything, does it?
No, but it's just the beginning. Remember, we're looking for patterns, for a convergence of clues that might point to something more.
I'm ready for more. What other evidence did Wigston find?
He points to a rather intriguing connection between St. Albans, a town with strong ties to both Bacon and Freemasonry.
Freemasonry. Now we're getting into some serious secret society territory.
Indeed, St. Albans holds a special significance for Freemasons, with its abbey playing a key role in the organization's early history in England.
Okay, but what does this have to do with Bacon?
Well, Bacon's childhood home, Gorhambury House, was actually built using stones taken from the ruins of St. Albans Abbey.
Wow, that's quite a connection. But how does Shakespeare fit into this picture?
Well, in Henry VI, Part 2, Shakespeare features scenes that take place in St. Albans, and even mentions the abbey's history.
Hold on, are we suggesting that Bacon deliberately chose this location for his play to subtly hint at his connections?
That's exactly what Wigston proposes. He argues that these seemingly coincidental links point to a deeper connection between Bacon and the world of secret societies, particularly Freemasonry, which during that era was often intertwined with Rosicrucian thought.
Okay, this is starting to feel like a conspiracy theory. We've got Bacon, potentially a Rosicrucian connected to St. Albans, a place steeped in Masonic history. Then we have Shakespeare writing about that very same place. It's almost too much of a coincidence.
That's exactly what makes this theory so compelling. It challenges us to consider the possibility that there's more to history than meets the eye, that perhaps some of the most influential figures of the past operated in ways we never imagined.
I'm definitely hooked. What else did Wigston uncover in his exploration of these connections?
Well, Wigston suggests that maybe Bacon was using Shakespeare's plays as a platform, a way to subtly introduce some of these Rosicrucian ideas, to kind of challenge those conventional ways of thinking.
So you're saying not just hidden messages about who wrote the plays, but a whole philosophical agenda hidden in the text itself.
Yeah. Think about it this way. In his writings, Bacon talks about the ancient philosophers who kept their knowledge secret. He even expresses a kind of admiration for the glory of concealing a thing.
It almost sounds like he's describing his own strategy.
It really does. And it makes you wonder, if he was so focused on secrecy, why leave any clues at all? Why not just keep everything completely hidden?
Yeah, that's a good point. Why the breadcrumbs? What's the point of that?
Maybe,
Yeah.
and this is just speculation, of course, maybe it was a way to sort of ensure his ideas didn't completely vanish, like a legacy for those who knew how to look.
A hidden legacy encoded in some of the most famous works of literature.
Exactly. And this brings us back to that big question we started with. Did Shakespeare's plays, have a hidden message? Was there a deeper layer of meaning waiting to be decoded? What do you think?
It's a really compelling idea, especially when you think about all those layers of symbolism and allegory that Shakespeare was so famous for.
Exactly. And The Tempest is a great example of this. Wigston saw The Tempest as an allegory for the creative process itself.
Okay, so how does he connect that to Bacon?
Well, Prospero, that exiled magician who controls the island, could represent the artist, or, even Bacon himself, wielding knowledge to shape the world around him.
So the play becomes A microcosm of Bacon's vision for using knowledge to transform society.
Exactly. And let's not forget that whole Rosicrucian theme of rebirth and transformation. Remember that storm at the beginning?
Yeah, the one that shipwrecks everyone.
Well, that could be a symbol of, like, a cleansing, the chaos before a new order.
Kind of like clearing away the old ways of thinking to make way for the new.
Precisely. And remember that mask that Prospero staged?
The one for Miranda and Ferdinand?
Yeah. Filled with symbolism, allegory, all hinting at something deeper going on.
Oh, wow. I'm seeing layers everywhere now.
Right. And it's not just the Tempest. The Winter's Tale is another example. Wigston saw that as an allegory for the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth.
Which were all pretty central themes for the Rosicrucians, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about Perdita, that lost princess. She could symbolize hidden knowledge being brought back into the light.
It's like those aha moments, when you suddenly see the connection.
Exactly. And this whole idea of rediscovering lost wisdom, it ties back to the Rosicrucians' belief in a golden age of knowledge. And remember, they were calling for a universal reformation.
Which sounds a lot like Bacon's great inspiration, right? That call for a renewal of knowledge.
It really does. Almost like they're both working toward the same goal, just through different means.
One through secret societies, the other through writing and maybe even theater.
Right. Think about the power of theater back then. A way to reach a huge audience.
Almost like planting seeds of thought in the minds of the public.
Exactly. And what about Shakespeare's sonnets? Wigston thought those were full of coded messages too.
Really? Even the sonnets?
Oh, yeah. He even suggested that fair youth character, the one who pops up all the time. Well, he thought that was a symbol for Bacon's own intellect and creativity.
It's really amazing how this theory makes you re-examine everything. But are there, any sources from back then? Anything that supports this idea?
Well, direct evidence is a little hard to come by, to be honest, especially with a group like the Rosicrucians. But Wigston does point to this one letter. Bacon wrote to a friend, asking him to, and I quote, "be good to concealed poets."
Isn't that a bit of a stretch, though, to connect that to the whole hidden author thing?
Yeah, you could definitely argue that it's just one phrase open to interpretation. But remember, we're looking for those patterns, those little hints that might point to something more.
Okay, fair enough. Any other hints?
Well, both Bacon and Shakespeare were close to the Earl of Southampton.
Right, a well-known patron of the arts.
Exactly. This suggests, that they might have been in the same circles, discussing ideas, maybe even those Rosicrucian ideas.
So it's more about circumstantial evidence than concrete proof.
Right. It's like a historical puzzle, Some pieces might be missing, but the overall image is pretty intriguing.
Definitely. Let's talk about those symbols. Wigston spent a lot of time analyzing those. What kind of things was he looking at?
He believed Bacon embedded clues in everything. Names of characters, settings of the plays, even the specific words being used.
Okay, can you give us an example?
Sure. Take Miranda from The Tempest. In Latin, it means wonderful things.
So it's not just about what's happening in the play, but the language itself.
Exactly. And this approach can be applied to other works, too. Think about Hamlet. Wigston saw that as a symbolic exploration of the conflict between reason and dogma.
With Hamlet representing the questioning intellectual.
Right. And that connects back to Bacon's own fascination with ancient wisdom. Figures like Pythagoras, Plato, Hermes Trismegistus.
All of whom emphasize the importance of hidden meanings and esoteric knowledge.
Exactly. Almost like Bacon was using Shakespeare's plays to, transmit these ancient ideas in a coded form.
It's incredible. It really makes you wonder if we've been misreading these works all along.
That's the beauty of theories like this, right? They make us question everything.
It really does. It makes you think about all those hidden layers. And I think that's a key part of Wigston's theory, right? He suggests that Bacon saw himself as part of a lineage.
Oh, absolutely. He believed Bacon saw himself as an initiate, carrying on this tradition of preserving and transmitting this ancient wisdom.
Like a secret society that's been around for centuries, with Bacon as one of its key members.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, was he working alone?
Right. Were there others involved in this grand scheme?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely possible. He may have had collaborators, maybe other Rosicrucians or like-minded intellectuals, people who shared his vision.
Like a secret network, working behind the scenes to spread these radical ideas.
It's a fascinating thought. But if Bacon went to all this trouble to hide his involvement, why leave any clues at all? It seems counterintuitive.
Right, that's the big question. What was the point of those breadcrumbs?
Perhaps it was a way to ensure his ideas wouldn't be totally lost, like a message in a bottle, waiting to be discovered.
Wow, a hidden legacy, encoded in some of the most famous works of literature. That's pretty mind-blowing.
It really is. But how do we even begin to decode these messages?
Right. Where do you even start?
Well, Wixton suggested we pay attention to the details, the symbolism, the allegory, even the etymology of words.
So it's not just reading the plays, but really studying them, analyzing them on a deeper level.
Looking for those hidden patterns and connections.
Okay, I'm starting to get it, but isn't it possible that, we're reading too much into it? Maybe it's all just a coincidence.
Oh, of course, it's always possible. But the sheer number of coincidences, the connections, it's hard to dismiss it entirely.
Yeah, it's like, when you find a pattern and you can't unsee it.
Right. It makes you question everything you thought you knew. But even with all this evidence, can we really say for sure that Bacon wrote Shakespeare?
Yeah, is there like a smoking gun out there?
Probably not. And with historical mysteries, it's rarely that simple. We may never have definitive proof, but that doesn't mean the search is pointless. I think the exploration itself is valuable,
Absolutely. It's about challenging our assumptions and keeping an open mind.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to discover that missing piece of the puzzle.
Well, that's a great note to end on. So what can we, our listeners, take away from this deep dive?
I think no matter what you believe about the authorship question, Wixton's theory reminds us to look deeper, to question what we think we know, and to always be open to new possibilities.
And to remember that history isn't always black and white. There are often, those hidden layers, those competing interpretations, and those mysteries that are just waiting to be unraveled.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, that's how Bacon intended it. To challenge us, to make us think, to keep us searching for those hidden truths.
That's a fantastic thought. So the next time you pick up a Shakespeare play, remember there might be more there than meets the eye.
Keep those eyes peeled.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep that spirit of curiosity alive.